The morning sun filtered through the worn curtains of the small apartment, casting golden lines across Nathan's face as he sat on the edge of his bed, clutching his chest. The pain had become his constant companion over the past 6 months, a sharp reminder that time was running out. But today was not about him. Today was about Sophie. He looked at the date circled in red on the calendar hanging crooked on the wall. May 15th, graduation day. The day his little girl would walk across that stage and receive her high school diploma. The day he had been counting down to for 18 years, ever since he held her tiny body in his arms at the hospital, alone and terrified, but determined to give her everything. Nathan's phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was a reminder from the hospital. Surgery scheduled for 10 a.m. Please arrive by 8:30 a.m. His hand trembled as he dismissed the notification. Dr. Chun had been cleared during their last appointment. This wasn't optional anymore. The blockage in his heart had reached a critical point. Delaying the surgery even by a few days could be fatal. But Sophie's graduation started at 10:30 a.m. He heard her moving in the next room, humming the song they used to dance to in the kitchen when she was 5. The memory pierced through him sharper than any chest pain. How many mornings had he woken up wondering if he was doing enough? How many nights had he worked double shifts at the factory, coming home to find her asleep at the kitchen table, her homework spread around her like a paper fortress? Nathan stood slowly, steadying himself against the dresser. His reflection stared back at him from the mirror. A man of 42 who looked 60, with gray threading through his dark hair and exhaustion carved into the lines around his eyes. But when he thought of Sophie, those eyes still sparkled with purpose. He had made his decision weeks ago, though he had told no one. The surgery could wait one more day. Dr. Chun would be angry. The hospital would reschedule. But this moment, this single morning when his daughter achieved what no one in their family had achieved before, this could never be reclaimed. Some people might call him foolish. Some might say he was being irresponsible. But Nathan knew one truth that guided every beat of his failing heart. Love doesn't calculate odds. Love shows up, and he would show up for Sophie, no matter the cost. Nathan walked into the small kitchen where Sophie sat eating cereal, her graduation gown hanging on the door behind her like a purple ghost. She looked up, and her face brightened in that way that had made every struggle worthwhile. "Morning, Dad. Can you believe it's actually here?" Her eyes shone with excitement, but there was something else there too. Worry. She had noticed him moving slower lately, breathing harder after climbing the stairs. "I always believed in this day," Nathan said, pouring himself coffee with hands he willed to stay steady. "I knew from the moment you started kindergarten that you'd make it all the way." Sophie smiled, but it faded quickly. "Dad, about today? I know you have that appointment at the hospital." Nathan's heart skipped. She knew. Of course she knew. Sophie had always been perceptive, even as a child. When her mother left them when Sophie was only 3, walking out in the middle of the night without a goodbye, Sophie had somehow understood without being told. She had climbed into Nathan's bed the next morning and patted his cheek, saying, "It's okay, Daddy. We have each other." "It's just a checkup," Nathan lied, hating the taste of dishonesty. "Already rescheduled it. Nothing is more important than watching you walk across that stage." "Dad." "Sophie." He sat down across from her, reaching for her hand. His palm was rough from years of manual labor, scarred and calloused, but his grip was gentle. "Do you remember what I promised you the first day of high school?" She nodded, her eyes glistening. "You said you'd be there at the finish line, no matter what. And have I ever broken a promise to you? No, she whispered. Then trust me now. I will be in that audience, watching you receive that diploma, cheering louder than anyone else there. This is not up for debate. What Nathan didn't tell her was that this promise might be the last one he could keep. The pain in his chest was growing worse each day. Some mornings he woke up gasping, convinced he wouldn't see another sunrise. But he had held on through sheer will, counting down the days until this moment. Sophie squeezed his hand. I love you, Dad. Everything I am, everything I've accomplished, it's because of you. Nathan's throat tightened. No, sweetheart. Everything you are is because of your own strength, your own brilliance. I just had the privilege of watching you grow. After Sophie left to meet her friends before the ceremony, Nathan sat alone in the quiet apartment. He pulled out his phone and stared at Dr. Chen's number. He should call. He should explain. But what could he say that the doctor would understand? How could he explain that some moments are worth dying for? He put the phone away and picked up his suit instead, the one he had bought specifically for this day, using money he had saved for months. Today, he would not be the exhausted factory worker. Today, he would be the proud father. The graduation ceremony was held at the city's largest auditorium, a grand building that seemed to shine with possibility. Nathan arrived early, wanting to secure a good seat despite the stabbing pain that radiated from his chest down his left arm. He recognized the warning signs. Dr. Chun had explained them in detail, but he pushed through the crowd, determination overriding common sense. Nathan, over here, called Maria, Sophie's best friend's mother. She waved from a row near the front. Nathan had known Maria for years. Their daughters had grown up together, sharing birthday parties and sleepovers. As he made his way to the seat, Nathan stumbled slightly. Maria caught his arm, her expression shifting to concern. Are you all right? You look pale. Just excited, Nathan said, forcing a smile. Big day. But Maria knew him too well. They had supported each other through the challenges of single parenthood, sharing advice and occasionally sharing meals when money was tight. Nathan, tell me the truth. What's going on? Before he could answer, his phone rang. It was the hospital. He declined the call, but Maria had seen the screen. Why is the hospital calling you? Nathan, what aren't you telling me? He sighed, knowing Maria wouldn't let this go. In a low voice, barely audible over the crowd's chatter, he admitted, I have a surgery scheduled. Was scheduled for this morning. Maria's hand flew to her mouth. What kind of surgery? My heart. There's a blockage. It's serious. The words felt heavy, like stones he had been carrying alone for too long. And you're here instead? Nathan, are you insane? You need to go to the hospital right now. I need to see my daughter graduate, he said firmly. This is not negotiable, Maria. I've missed too much in life already. I won't miss this. Maria's eyes filled with tears. She would understand. Sophie would want you to take care of yourself. Maybe, but I would never understand. I would never forgive myself. Nathan's voice cracked with emotion. When her mother left, I made a promise to myself and to Sophie. I promised I would be there for every important moment. First day of school, every parent-teacher conference, every birthday, every milestone. This is the biggest milestone of her life so far, and I will not break that promise. The lights began to dim, signaling the ceremony was about to start. Maria gripped Nathan's hand tightly. Then I'm staying right here with you. If anything happens. Nothing will happen, Nathan interrupted, though he wasn't sure he believed it himself. The pain was intensifying, and a cold sweat had broken out across his forehead. I just need to make it through the next 2 hours. The music began to play, and the graduating class started to file in. Nathan's eyes searched frantically for Sophie among the sea of purple gowns and caps. When he finally spotted her, his heart swelled with such fierce pride that for a moment, even the physical pain seemed to fade. She was radiant, walking with confidence and grace, her smile bright enough to light the entire auditorium. This was his daughter, his Sophie, the little girl he had raised alone, working 3 jobs at times to keep food on the table and clothes on her back. The teenager who had studied by candlelight when they couldn't pay the electric bill. The young woman who had earned a full scholarship to college through sheer determination and brilliance. Every sacrifice had been worth it for this moment. As the principal began his opening remarks, Nathan's mind drifted back through the years, a slideshow of memories playing behind his eyes. He remembered Sophie at 6 years old, crying because the other kids at school had asked where her mother was. He had held her that night, explaining that families come in all shapes and sizes, and their family of 2 was perfect just as it was. He remembered her at 10, winning the school science fair with a project about renewable energy. She had been so excited, jumping up and down, shouting, "Dad, did you see? Did you see?" He had seen. He always saw, even when exhaustion threatened to pull him under. He remembered her at 13, asking him to teach her how to dance before the school formal. They had practiced in their tiny living room, Nathan stepping on her toes and making her laugh until she couldn't breathe. "You're terrible at this, Dad," she had giggled. "But you're the best dance partner I could ask for." The pain in Nathan's chest suddenly intensified, like a fist squeezing his heart. He gasped quietly, trying not to draw attention. Maria noticed immediately and leaned close. "Nathan, you're scaring me. Please, let me call someone." "No," he managed through gritted teeth. "I'm fine. Just need to breathe." But he wasn't fine. His vision was starting to blur at the edges, and his left arm had gone numb. These weren't just warning signs anymore. This was his body telling him he had pushed too far. Still, he remained in his seat, his eyes fixed on Sophie. She was sitting with her classmates, occasionally glancing back into the audience, searching for him. When their eyes met, she waved, and he waved back, using every ounce of strength he had left. The principal continued speaking about the journey of education, about the bright futures ahead for these young graduates. Nathan thought about Sophie's future, about the scholarship to the state university, about her dreams of becoming an environmental engineer. She wanted to save the world, and Nathan had no doubt she would. He thought about all the things he wanted to tell her, all the wisdom he hoped to share over the years to come. He wanted to teach her how to change a tire, though she probably already knew from watching him. He wanted to walk her down the aisle someday, to meet his grandchildren, to grow old and watch her life unfold in ways he could only imagine. But as another wave of pain crashed through him, Nathan faced a terrifying possibility. This might be goodbye. This might be the last time he saw his daughter's face, the last time he heard her laugh, the last moment they shared. If that was true, then this was exactly where he needed to be. Not in a hospital room surrounded by machines and strangers, but here, in this auditorium, watching his daughter shine. "Nathan, your lips are turning blue," Maria whispered urgently. "I'm going to get help." Before he could protest, she was on her feet, moving quickly toward the back of the auditorium. Nathan wanted to call her back, but he couldn't find his voice. The room was spinning now, the voices around him fading into a distant echo. He kept his eyes on Sophie, just a little longer, just until they called her name. The valedictorian speech began, delivered by a bright young man Nathan recognized from Sophie's study group. He talked about overcoming obstacles, about the support of family, about gratitude. Nathan tried to focus on the words, but his consciousness was slipping, reality blurring like watercolors in rain. Then he heard it, cutting through the fog, Sophie's name. We also want to recognize Sophie Brooks, who not only maintained a perfect GPA throughout her 4 years, but did so while working part-time to help support her family. Sophie embodies the spirit of perseverance and dedication. The audience applauded, and Nathan tried to clap too, but his hands wouldn't cooperate. He saw Sophie stand, saw her wave shyly, saw the pride and embarrassment on her face at being singled out. His daughter, his incredible daughter. The individual name-calling began, students walking across the stage in alphabetical order. Nathan calculated frantically in his fading mind. Brooks, Sophie Brooks. She would be early in the lineup. Please hold your applause until all graduates have been recognized, the principal requested, though Nathan knew no power on earth could keep him quiet when Sophie's name was called. Emily Anderson, Marcus Bailey, David Bennett. Each name brought them closer. Nathan's breathing had become shallow and labored. The man sitting next to him noticed and leaned over with concern, but Nathan shook his head. Not now. Not yet. Sophie Brooks. Time seemed to stop. Nathan watched his daughter stand and walk toward the stage, her movements graceful despite the awkward gown. She climbed the steps, shook the principal's hand, and received her diploma. In that moment, her eyes found Nathan in the crowd, and her smile was radiant, filled with love and gratitude. Nathan stood, his body moving on pure instinct and willpower. He clapped, and then he cheered, his voice breaking through the requested silence. That's my daughter. That's my Sophie. Other parents joined in, the rule about holding applause forgotten in the wave of communal joy. Sophie laughed, tears streaming down her face, and blew a kiss to her father. It was perfect. It was everything Nathan had dreamed of. And then his legs gave out. The auditorium erupted in gasps and shouts as Nathan collapsed into the aisle. Maria, who had just returned with a security guard, screamed his name. People rushed to his side, creating a circle of concerned faces around him. On stage, Sophie's diploma fell from her hands as she watched her father fall. "Dad!" she screamed, pushing past faculty members to get to him. "Dad, no. Someone help him." Through his fading consciousness, Nathan heard the chaos around him. Someone was calling 911. Someone else was performing CPR. He felt hands on his chest, felt the pressure of compressions, but it all seemed very far away. What he focused on was the sound of Sophie's voice, crying his name, begging him to stay with her. He wanted to tell her it was okay, that he had kept his promise, that he had seen her graduate. He wanted to tell her he loved her more than life itself. But the words wouldn't come. The darkness was pulling him under, and he was too tired to fight anymore. The last thing Nathan saw before everything went black was Sophie's face above his, tears falling onto his cheeks like rain, her lips moving in desperate prayer. And then nothing. The ceremony had dissolved into chaos. Students were on their feet, parents were crying, and the faculty was trying desperately to maintain order while emergency responders rushed in. Sophie was on her knees beside her father, holding his hand, refusing to let the paramedics move her. "Please, Dad. Please wake up," she sobbed. "You can't leave me. You promised. You promised you'd always be here." The paramedics worked with practiced efficiency, checking vital signs, preparing to transport. "We need to get him to the hospital now," one of them said urgently. "He's had a cardiac event." "Ma'am, you need to step back." "I'm coming with him," Sophie insisted, her voice breaking but firm. "Are you family?" "I'm his daughter. I'm all he has. I'm coming with him." They didn't argue. Within minutes, Nathan was on a stretcher being wheeled out of the auditorium, Sophie running alongside, still wearing her graduation gown, her cap lost somewhere in the chaos. Maria followed, calling other parents to explain what had happened, her own face streaked with tears. The ambulance ride was a blur of sirens and beeping machines. Sophie held her father's hand, watching the paramedics work, praying harder than she had ever prayed in her life. One of the paramedics was reviewing Nathan's medical information, pulled up on a tablet. He had a surgery scheduled for this morning. The paramedic said, surprise in his voice. "Coronary bypass. Critical priority." Why wasn't he in the hospital? Sophie's blood ran cold. "What? What surgery?" "Your father has severe coronary artery disease. According to this, his doctor scheduled emergency surgery for 10 a.m. today. He was supposed to be admitted hours ago." The truth hit Sophie like a physical blow. Her father had skipped his own life-saving surgery to watch her graduate. He had risked everything, knowing the danger, choosing her moment over his survival. "No, no, no," she whispered, squeezing his hand tighter. "Dad, why would you do that? Why would you risk your life for a ceremony? I would have understood. I would have wanted you to have the surgery." But Nathan couldn't hear her. He remained unconscious, his face pale, his breathing assisted by an oxygen mask. They arrived at the hospital in minutes that felt like hours. The emergency team was ready, having been alerted by the paramedics. As they rushed Nathan into the ER, a doctor stepped forward to meet them. Sophie recognized him from the ID badge. Dr. Chun, cardiac surgery. Dr. Chin's face was a mixture of anger, frustration, and deep sadness. "This is Nathan Brooks?" he asked, though he clearly already knew. "Yes," Sophie said. "Please, you have to save him. He's all I have." Dr. Chin looked at this young woman in her graduation gown, tears streaming down her face, and his expression softened. "Come with me," he said gently. "We need to talk while my team stabilizes him." He led Sophie and Maria to a small consultation room. Sophie was shaking, her mind unable to process the rapid shift from the happiest moment of her life to the worst nightmare she could imagine. Dr. Chun sat down across from them, his hands folded on the table. "I spoke with your father 3 weeks ago," he began. "I told him he needed surgery immediately. The blockages in his coronary arteries were severe. Every day he delayed increased the risk of exactly what happened today, a massive heart attack." "He never told me," Sophie whispered. "I knew he had appointments, but he said it was routine checkups. He lied to me. He didn't want you to worry. And he was absolutely determined to attend your graduation." Dr. Chin's voice held a note of reluctant admiration. "I tried to convince him to schedule the surgery earlier. I even offered to do it yesterday, so he could potentially attend today, but wasn't available. He knew the risks. I made sure he understood that delaying could be fatal." Dr. Chun continued, his voice heavy with emotion. "Your father came to my office 2 weeks ago with a specific request. He asked me to write down everything he wanted to say to you in case something went wrong. He knew he was taking a gamble. He knew he might not survive. But he told me something I will never forget. The doctor pulled out a sealed envelope from his pocket. Sophie's name was written on it in her father's familiar handwriting, slightly shaky, but unmistakably his. He said, "My daughter has spent her whole life watching me keep promises. She has seen me work myself to exhaustion to provide for her, to be at every school event, to never miss a moment that mattered. If I miss her graduation for a surgery, she will understand with her mind, but her heart will remember that her father wasn't there on the most important day of her young life. And if I die in surgery before seeing her achieve this dream, I will die with regret. But if I die after watching her walk across that stage, I will die complete." Sophie's sobs filled the small room. Maria wrapped her arms around her, crying too. He said, Dr. Chin's voice cracked, that being your father was the greatest achievement of his life, that every sacrifice was worth it, that if he had to choose between a few more years without that memory or one perfect day watching you graduate, he would choose the perfect day every single time. Dr. Chin stood, preparing to return to his patient. I argued with him. I told him he was being foolish, that you would need him for years to come, for your college graduation, your wedding, your children. Do you know what he said? Sophie shook her head, unable to speak. He said, I have given her 18 years of showing up. If today is my last day, she will know beyond any doubt that she was loved, that she was my priority, that she was worth everything. That's the kind of father you have, Sophie. That's the kind of man fighting for his life right now. The doctor handed her the envelope. I hope you won't need to read this today. I hope I can repair the damage and give your father many more years. But he wanted you to have this, just in case. After Dr. Chun left to scrub in for emergency surgery, Sophie sat holding the envelope, afraid to open it, afraid of what it meant. Maria sat beside her, offering silent support. He's going to make it, Maria said firmly. Nathan is the strongest person I know. He didn't survive all these years of struggle just to give up now. But Sophie knew the truth. Her father had already given everything he had. He had used every reserve of strength to make it to her graduation, to see her walk across that stage. There might be nothing left to fight with now. With trembling hands, she carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, several pages long, written in her father's hand. She began to read through her tears. My dearest Sophie, if you are reading this, then I have made my choice and faced the consequences. Please do not be angry with me. Please do not feel guilty. The choice was mine alone, and I made it with a full heart and clear mind. From the moment you were born, you became my reason for everything. Your mother's leaving nearly destroyed me, but you saved me. Your smile, your laugh, your little hand in mine. These things gave me purpose when I had none. Sophie pressed the letter to her chest, sobbing. Around them, the hospital continued its rhythms, but in this small room, time seemed suspended in grief and love. Your father is a hero, Maria whispered. Not because of what he did today, but because of what he did every day for 18 years. You are loved, Sophie. You are so deeply loved. Hours passed in agonizing slowness. The waiting room filled with familiar faces, Sophie's friends from school, still in their graduation gowns, their parents, neighbors from the apartment building, and colleagues from the factory where Nathan worked. Word had spread quickly about what happened, and the community that Nathan had quietly been part of for years came together to support his daughter. Sophie sat in the same chair, still clutching her father's letter, her eyes red from crying but now dry. She had moved beyond tears into a numb state of waiting, every minute stretching into eternity. Maria brought her coffee and a sandwich, but Sophie couldn't eat. "You need to keep your strength up," Maria urged gently. "He never ate when he was worried about me," Sophie said softly. "When I had pneumonia in 5th grade and spent 3 days in the hospital, he never left my side. He didn't eat, didn't sleep. The nurses had to force him to drink water. He just sat there, holding my hand, telling me stories to keep me calm." She looked around at all the people who had come. "I didn't realize so many people cared about him. He never talked about himself, never asked for help, never complained. I thought we were alone in the world, just the two of us against everything. But look at all these people." An older man approached, someone Sophie recognized from the factory. His name was George, and he had worked alongside Nathan for over a decade. "Your father is the best man I know," George said, his voice gruff with emotion. "When my wife got sick 3 years ago, and I had to take time off, Nathan worked my shifts too. He never asked for extra pay, never complained. He just said, 'Family comes first.' That's who he is." A teacher from Sophie's elementary school was there too. "Nathan never missed a parent-teacher conference," she shared, "even when he was working night shifts, even when he was exhausted. And he always asked the same questions. Is she happy? Is she kind to others? Is she learning? Not just about grades, but about the person you were becoming." Story after story emerged, painting a picture of Nathan that Sophie had never fully seen. She knew her father was good, knew he worked hard, knew he loved her. But she hadn't understood the full extent of his impact on others, the quiet way he had helped and supported people without ever seeking recognition. At hour 5 of the surgery, Dr. Chun emerged, still in his surgical scrubs. The waiting room fell silent. Sophie stood, her legs shaky, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her chest. The doctor's face was exhausted but unreadable. He walked directly to Sophie. "He's alive," Dr. Chin said, and the waiting room erupted in gasps and cries of relief. The surgery was complicated. The damage from the heart attack was severe, and the blockages were worse than the scans had shown. "But your father is a fighter. His heart is weak, but it's still beating. Can I see him?" Sophie asked immediately. "Soon. He's in recovery now. But Sophie, you need to understand something. The next 48 hours are critical. He's not out of danger yet. And even if he recovers, his heart has sustained significant damage. His life will be different from here on out. He'll need extensive rehabilitation, lifestyle changes, possibly more surgeries in the future. But he'll live. He'll have a future." Dr. Chin smiled gently. "If he fights as hard in recovery as he fought to make it to your graduation, then yes, he has a chance." Sophie was finally allowed into the ICU at midnight. The recovery room was quiet except for the steady beep of monitors and the soft hiss of oxygen. Nathan lay in the bed, looking smaller than Sophie had ever seen him, with tubes and wires connecting him to various machines. She approached slowly, afraid she might somehow hurt him if she moved too quickly. When she reached the bedside, she carefully took his hand, the same hand that had held hers on her first day of school, that had taught her to ride a bike, that had wiped away countless tears. "Hi, Dad," she whispered. "I'm here. I'm right here." The nurse in the room smiled kindly. "Talk to him. Even though he's sedated, hearing familiar voices helps." So Sophie talked. She told him about the graduation ceremony before everything went wrong, about how she had looked for him in the audience and felt her heart swell when she saw him there. She told him about all the people in the waiting room, about the stories they had shared, about the community of love he had built without even realizing it. "You always made me feel like I was your whole world," Sophie said, tears flowing again. "But Dad, you were the world to so many people. You just never stopped long enough to see it. You were too busy taking care of everyone else." She pulled out his letter again, reading parts of it aloud. "You wrote, 'I hope I taught you to be strong, to be kind, to value what matters most in life.' Dad, you taught me all of that and more. You taught me what real love looks like. Not the easy kind that shows up when it's convenient, but the hard kind that sacrifices everything." Hours passed. Sophie refused to leave, even when the nurses suggested she get some rest. Maria had gone home to check on things and promised to return in the morning. Sophie was alone with her father, keeping vigil the way he had kept vigil over her so many times. As dawn broke, painting the hospital room in soft gray light, Nathan's fingers twitched in Sophie's hand. Her eyes, heavy with exhaustion, flew open. "Dad, can you hear me?" Slowly, agonizingly slowly, Nathan's eyes fluttered open. They were unfocused at first, confused by the lights and machines. Then they found Sophie's face, and even in his weakened state, they filled with love. "Sophie," he rasped, his voice barely audible through the oxygen mask. "I'm here, Dad. Don't try to talk. You're okay. You're going to be okay." But Nathan needed to speak. With effort that clearly caused him pain, he whispered, "Did you graduate?" Sophie laughed through her tears. Of course that would be his first question. Of course, even after nearly dying, his first thought would be of her. "Yes, Dad, I graduated. And you were there. You kept your promise." Nathan's eyes closed in relief, a small smile touching his lips. "Good. That's good. But you shouldn't have done it," Sophie said, her voice breaking. "You shouldn't have risked your life for a ceremony. I needed you there, but not at the cost of losing you forever." Nathan's hand squeezed hers with surprising strength. "Worth it," he whispered. "Always worth it. You're my daughter, my pride, my joy. Seeing you shine was worth everything. Dad, I have so much to tell you. About college, about the future, about everything. You have to get better. You have to stay with me. I still need you. I'll always need you." 3 weeks later, Sophie pushed her father's wheelchair into the hospital's garden. It was a beautiful June day, warm and bright, with flowers blooming in vibrant colors. Nathan was still weak, his recovery slow and painful, but he was alive and growing stronger each day. "The doctors say you can come home next week," Sophie said, sitting on a bench beside him. "I've been fixing up the apartment. Maria helped me. We moved your bed to the living room so you won't have to deal with stairs, and we organized all your medications." Nathan smiled, his color much better than it had been, though he still tired easily. "You don't have to take care of me, sweetheart. You have college starting in the fall. You have your own life to live. You spent 18 years putting your life on hold for me," Sophie countered. "I can spend a few months making sure you recover properly. Besides, I deferred enrollment until spring semester. It's all arranged." "Sophie, no. Dad, it's done. And it's what I want. You taught me that family comes first. You showed me that love means sacrifice. Now let me show you that I learned those lessons well." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to birds singing and children playing in the distance. Finally, Nathan spoke. I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you years ago. Sophie turned to him, concerned. What is it? When your mother left, I was terrified. I was 24 years old, alone with a 3-year-old, barely making enough money to survive. I didn't know how to be both a mother and a father. I didn't know if I could give you the life you deserved. Nathan's voice was thick with emotion. There were people who told me I should give you up for adoption, that you would have a better life with a 2-parent family who could provide for you properly. Sophie's eyes widened. She had never known this. But when I looked at you, I saw my whole world. And I made a decision that day. I decided that maybe I couldn't give you everything, but I could give you one thing that would matter more than anything else: my complete and absolute devotion. Every choice I made from that day forward was about you. Every job I took, every hour I worked, every sacrifice I made, it was all for you. Tears streamed down Sophie's face. You gave me everything, Dad. Maybe we didn't have a lot of money. Maybe we struggled sometimes. But you gave me something more valuable than any of that. You gave me security. You gave me confidence. You gave me the knowledge that I was loved unconditionally. Nathan reached for her hand. That day in the auditorium, when I collapsed, I wasn't afraid of dying. I was at peace because I had kept my final promise. I had seen you succeed. I had witnessed the beautiful, brilliant, strong woman you had become. If that was my last moment, it would have been enough. But it wasn't your last moment, Sophie said firmly. You have so many moments ahead of you. You're going to see me graduate from college. You're going to walk me down the aisle someday. You're going to meet your grandchildren. You're going to have the life you deserve, the life you sacrificed for all these years. Maybe, Nathan said softly. But even if I don't, even if my time is shorter than we hope, I want you to remember something. Love is not measured in years, but in moments. And Sophie, you have given me a lifetime of perfect moments. You are my greatest achievement, my proudest accomplishment, my legacy to this world. Dr. Chin found them there an hour later, still holding hands in the garden. He approached with a smile, carrying a folder. I have good news, he announced. The latest tests show significant improvement. Your heart is healing better than we expected, Nathan. You're going to have limitations, yes, and you'll need to take care of yourself. But with proper treatment and lifestyle changes, there's no reason you can't live many more years. Sophie hugged her father carefully, mindful of his fragile state. You hear that, Dad? Many more years. Many more moments. Nathan looked at his daughter, at the doctor who had saved his life, at the beautiful day surrounding them, and felt overwhelming gratitude. He had gambled everything on one moment, and somehow, miraculously, he had won both the moment and the future. As they prepared to return inside, Sophie stopped and turned to her father. Thank you, she said simply, for everything, for every sacrifice, every late night, every promise kept. Thank you for showing me what real love looks like. Thank you for being my dad. Nathan's eyes filled with tears. Thank you for being my reason to keep going, even when everything seemed impossible. Thank you for being exactly who you are. Thank you for being my daughter. The story of the single father who risked everything to see his daughter graduate spread far beyond that hospital. It became a reminder to people everywhere about what truly matters in life. Not success or wealth or recognition, but love. The fierce, sacrificial, unconditional love between a parent and child. And for Sophie and Nathan, every day forward became a gift they never took for granted. every moment another chapter in a story that had always been about one simple truth: that showing up for the people we love, no matter the cost, is the most powerful thing we can do. Love doesn't calculate odds. Love shows up, and Nathan had shown up for Sophie in every way that mattered, teaching her the most important lesson of all, that she was worth everything.